Throughout history and mythology, war has been more than just a battle for survival. It's been a reflection of power, wisdom, and destiny. Across cultures and civilizations, gods and goddesses of war have shaped the way we view conflict and courage. From fiery deities of chaos to strategic figures of protection and justice, this video explores the most iconic war deities from around the world.
Hi, I am Asa Awan, and you are watching Hermes Mythology. Let's begin.
Ares, the embodiment of war's savage heart, whose very name sends tremors through the ranks of both mortals and immortals alike. But what drives this fearsome deity? What forces shaped the god who revels in the drum of battle and drinks deep from the cup of violence? Born to Zeus and Hera, supreme rulers of Olympus, Ares emerged into existence bearing the weight of divine expectation. Unlike his half-sister Athena, who represented the strategic and honorable aspects of warfare, Ares embodied its raw, untamed nature. Where Athena was wisdom, Ares was fury. Where she was restraint, he was abandon. This duality would define not only his role among the gods, but his very essence. The ancient Greeks painted Ares as a towering figure of divine perfection, his physical form matching his violent nature. Bronze armor gleamed upon his muscled frame, while his eyes blazed with the fires of combat. His weapons, the spear, sword, and shield, were not mere tools but extensions of his very being. When he rode into battle, his chariot was pulled by 4 fire-breathing stallions, their hooves striking sparks from the clouds themselves. Yet despite his fearsome appearance and divine lineage, Ares' position among the Olympians was complex. Even his father Zeus, king of the gods, spoke of him with disdain, once proclaiming, "You are the most hateful to me of all the gods who hold Olympus. Forever quarreling is dear to your heart, wars and battles." This contempt stemmed from Ares' nature, his unbridled passion for violence, and his tendency to fight for the sheer pleasure of combat rather than any noble cause. Unlike other war deities who represented honor, strategy, or defensive warfare, Ares embodied the most primal aspects of conflict: bloodlust, rage, and the intoxicating thrill of violence. Among the most famous tales of Ares is his humiliation at the hands of the Eloadi giants, Otus and Ephialtes. These towering brothers dared to challenge the Olympians themselves, and in their arrogance, they managed to capture the god of war. For 13 months, they kept him imprisoned in a bronze jar, his proud spirit confined within its narrow walls. It was only through the cunning of Hermes that Ares was finally freed, his pride wounded, but his thirst for violence unquenched. Yet perhaps no story better illustrates Ares' character than his infamous affair with Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty. Though she was married to Hephaestus, the divine craftsman, Ares and Aphrodite engaged in a passionate liaison that seemed to embody the ancient Greek understanding of love and war as intrinsically linked forces. When Hephaestus discovered their tryst, he crafted an invisible net of unbreakable chains, trapping the lovers in their embrace and exposing them to the ridicule of the other gods. But Ares was more than just a figure of divine scandal. His influence extended deep into the mortal realm, where his children often became legendary heroes and fearsome warriors. Among his offspring were Phobos and Deimos, fear and terror, who rode with their father into battle, spreading panic through the ranks of his enemies. The Amazons, those legendary warrior women, claimed him as their patron, and many of Greece's greatest heroes sought his blessing before entering combat. In Sparta, a city-state renowned for its warrior culture, Ares held special significance. While other Greek cities viewed him with mistrust, the Spartans embraced his martial spirit. They built temples in his honor and offered sacrifices before battle, seeking to channel his ferocious energy into their own warriors. Yet even as they honored him, the Greeks recognized the destructive nature of what Ares represented. In their stories, he often faced defeat at the hands of more disciplined warriors or clever opponents. During the Trojan War, he sided with the Trojans, only to be wounded by the mortal hero Diomedes with Athena's help. The goddess of wisdom guided Diomedes' spear, driving it into Ares' belly and sending him fleeing back to Olympus with a roar that rang as loud as 9 or 10,000 men. These defeats served a purpose in Greek mythology. They demonstrated that even the raw power of war could be overcome by strategy, wisdom, and discipline. Ares' losses were object lessons in the superiority of controlled martial skill over blind aggression. The gods' worship often reflected this ambivalence. While most Greek cities maintained temples to Ares, they were typically built outside city walls, symbolically keeping his violent influence at a safe distance. His festivals were marked by military exercises and athletic competitions, rather than the joyous celebrations other gods received. Yet for all his fearsome reputation, Ares also represented aspects of warfare that soldiers found deeply relatable. He understood the intoxicating power of combat, the brotherhood forged in battle, and the price of violence. Unlike other gods who remained aloof from human suffering, Ares participated directly in mortal conflicts, experiencing both the thrill of victory and the sting of defeat. The Romans would later adopt Ares under the name Mars, but their interpretation differed significantly from the Greek original. As we look back across the millennia at this complex deity, we might ask ourselves, has our relationship with war really changed since ancient times? Do we still harbor that same fascination with conflict that led the Greeks to personify it in the form of Ares? Perhaps in understanding this ancient god of war, we better understand our own complicated relationship with violence and power. As Aeschylus once wrote, "In war, truth is the first casualty." But in the myths of Ares, we find a different kind of truth, one that speaks to the eternal human struggle between our capacity for violence and our desire for peace, between raw power and wisdom, between the chaos of war and the order of civilization. And Ares, piercer of shields, O contaminated one, O curse of mortals, you who feast on blood and the death of men, Aeschylus. Athena, goddess of strategic warfare and wisdom, picture, if you will, the moment when wisdom itself bursts into being, not with gentle contemplation, but with a warrior's cry. From Zeus's split head emerged a fully grown woman, adorned in gleaming armor, brandishing a spear that could pierce the heavens themselves. This was Athena's extraordinary birth, a moment that shook Mount Olympus to its very foundations. But what made this goddess so remarkable that even her birth defied the natural order? In ancient Greece, where gods were as numerous as olive trees and just as vital to daily life, one deity stood apart, neither driven by raw emotion like Ares, nor bound by the earthly desires that consumed her fellow Olympians. Athena represented something far more profound, the perfect unity of mind and might, of wisdom and war, of divine power tempered by human understanding. The tale of Athena's birth speaks volumes about her nature. Zeus, king of the gods, had swallowed his first wife, Metis, after learning their offspring would be more powerful than him. But within Zeus's head, Metis forged her daughter's armor, the rhythmic pounding of her work causing such tremendous headaches that Zeus begged Hephaestus to split his skull open with an axe. From this extraordinary caesarean section emerged Athena, fully grown and armored, shouting a war cry that echoed across the heavens and earth. Through the streets of ancient Athens, her chosen city, Athena's presence was felt in every craftsman's workshop and scholar's study. Her sacred owl perched upon the Parthenon, its eyes reflecting the wisdom she bestowed upon those who sought her guidance. The olive trees she gifted to the city swayed in the Mediterranean breeze, their silver leaves whispering stories of her benevolence. Unlike her half-brother Ares, who revealed in the chaos and bloodlust of battle, Athena embodied strategic warfare. Her powers extended far beyond the battlefield, encompassing all forms of wisdom and skill. She was the patron of artisans, teaching them to weave stories into tapestries and breathe life into marble. She guided architects in raising monuments that would stand for millennia and inspired inventors to create tools that would transform civilization. Her aegis, a fearsome shield bearing the head of Medusa, struck terror into her enemies' hearts, yet it was her mind that proved her deadliest weapon. In battle, she moved with calculated precision, each thrust of her spear guided by strategy rather than fury. The goddess never lost a battle, for she never entered one without first ensuring victory through careful planning. Among the most famous tales of Athena's wisdom is the contest for Athens itself. When both she and Poseidon claimed the city, they agreed to let its people choose their patron based on their gifts. Poseidon struck the Acropolis with his trident, creating a spring of salt water. Athena planted the first olive tree, providing food, oil, and wood. The citizens chose Athena's practical gift, recognizing that true power lies not in grand gestures, but in sustainable wisdom. Perhaps no myth better illustrates Athena's complex nature than her relationship with Arachne, a mortal weaver who dared to challenge the goddess's skill. Rather than immediately striking down the presumptuous mortal, Athena first appeared as an old woman, offering Arachne a chance to repent. When the mortal refused, Athena accepted the challenge. Their weaving contest became legendary. Athena, creating scenes of divine justice, Arachne defiantly depicting the gods' misdeeds. Though Arachne's work was flawless, her hubris and disrespect led to her transformation into the first spider, forever weaving but never achieving the recognition she craved. Yet Athena's most celebrated role was as divine mentor to heroes. None benefited more from her guidance than Odysseus, the clever king of Ithaca. Throughout his decade-long journey home from Troy, Athena stood by him, not by fighting his battles, but by sharpening his wit and strengthening his resolve. She taught him that the mind could overcome any obstacle that brute force could not. In ancient Athens, Athena's influence permeated every aspect of life. The Parthenon, crown jewel of the Acropolis, stood as a testament to her glory. During the Panathenæa festival, the entire city would process to her temple, bearing a new peplous robe woven by chosen maidens. This wasn't a mere ceremony, it represented the Athenians' dedication to the principles she embodied: wisdom, justice, and strategic thinking. What made Athena unique among the Olympians was her ability to bridge divine power with human potential. She didn't simply solve mortals' problems, she taught them to think, to create, to strategize. Under her guidance, Athens became not just a city, but a cradle of democracy, philosophy, and art. Her temples became centers of learning, where wisdom was valued above gold. The goddess's influence extended far beyond ancient Greece. Her owl became a universal symbol of wisdom and learning. The olive branch she created became an eternal symbol of peace. Even today, her name graces institutions of learning worldwide, and her image, helmet raised, spear ready, but eyes filled with wisdom, continues to inspire. Mars and Bellona, divine warriors of Rome, in the crimson light of dawn, as the first rays pierce the morning mist, a war horn echoes across the 7 hills of Rome. The ground trembles beneath the march of legion boots, and the air crackles with divine energy. This is the hour of Mars, when the god of war leads his children to glory, and his sister Bellona raises her sword to herald the coming storm. But who were these fierce deities that commanded such devotion from the mightiest empire the world had ever known? Before Rome was an empire, before its legions thundered across 3 continents, Mars walked these lands not just as a god of war, but as a guardian of peace through strength, a protector of fields and flocks. Unlike his Greek counterpart Ares, who reveled purely in bloodshed, Mars embodied the Roman ideal of disciplined power. The farmer who becomes a soldier, the plowshare that transforms into a sword. Born to Jupiter and Juno, Mars held a position of unprecedented honor in Roman mythology. While other cultures relegated their war gods to positions of brutish violence, Mars stood second only to Jupiter himself in the Roman pantheon. The very founders of Rome, Romulus and Remus, were said to be his sons, born of the Vestal Virgin, Rhea Silvia. Through this divine parentage, every Roman citizen could claim descent from Mars himself, a heritage that shaped their destiny as warriors and builders of civilization. In the field of battle, Mars was magnificent and terrible to behold. Clad in celestial bronze armor that shone like the sun, his crimson cloak billowing in the wind of combat, he rode his chariot across the skies, accompanied by his fearsome attendants, Timor and Pavor, fear and terror. Yet even in war, Mars embodied order and discipline. He was not the chaos of battle, but its mastery. The calculated advance of the Roman legion, the precision of the gladius thrust, the unwavering courage of soldiers who stood their ground, these were his true manifestations. But Mars was more than a deity of warfare. In the early days of Rome, before the Republic became an empire, he was deeply connected to agriculture and the changing of seasons. The month of March, named in his honor, marked both the beginning of the farming season and the resumption of military campaigns. This duality was no contradiction to the Romans, who saw the same virtues required in both pursuits: discipline, strength, and dedication to duty. In his agricultural aspect, Mars protected the fields from harm and ensured the fertility of crops and livestock. The Arval brothers, an ancient priesthood, would perform elaborate ceremonies in his honor, dancing and singing the Carmen Arval to ensure his blessing on the harvest. This hymn, one of the oldest known Latin texts, speaks not of war but of abundance. Enos, laces, juvate. Help us, lares, nevelu ru, marmar, sins incurrere in pleores. Do not let plague and ruin, Mars, rush upon the multitude. But Mars did not stand alone in the divine hierarchy of war. At his side fought Bellona, his sister or wife, depending on the telling, a goddess whose very name became synonymous with warfare. If Mars was the strategic commander, Bellona was the fury of combat itself. Her temple in Rome stood in the Campus Martius, the field of Mars, where senators would meet to discuss matters of war and receive foreign ambassadors. Bellona's priests, the Bellonari, were known for their frenzied devotion. During their rituals, they would work themselves into an ecstatic state, slashing their own arms and legs with knives, sprinkling their blood as an offering to the goddess. This blood sacrifice was believed to empower Roman armies with divine fury and ensure victory in battle. In artistic depictions, Bellona appears as a fearsome figure, wielding a sword or spear, sometimes carrying a shield stained with battle, her hair wild and eyes blazing with the fire of combat. She drove Mars's chariot into battle, her voice rising above the clash of arms to inspire courage in Roman soldiers and strike terror in their enemies. The relationship between Mars and Bellona was complex, reflecting the Roman understanding of war itself. While Mars represented the ideal of justified warfare, bellum justum, Bellona embodied its harsh realities. Together, they formed a complete picture of armed conflict, strategy and chaos, discipline and fury, purpose and consequence. The worship of Mars and Bellona spread throughout the Roman Empire, adapting to local traditions while maintaining their essential character. In Britain, Mars was syncretized with local warrior gods, while in North Africa, Bellona merged with indigenous goddess cults. Their influence extended far beyond the battlefield, shaping Roman society at every level. In Rome, the Temple of Mars Ultor, Mars the Avenger, stood as one of the city's most magnificent structures. Built by Augustus to fulfill a vow made before avenging Julius Caesar's assassination, it became the center of military ceremony. Here, young men receiving their first arms would make offerings to Mars. Victorious generals would lay their laurels at his feet. The temple served as a reminder that Rome's power flowed from divine mandate. The legacy of Mars and Bellona extends far beyond their religious significance. They represented core Roman virtues that shaped Western civilization: discipline, duty, courage, and the understanding that peace must sometimes be won through strength. Remember, when you look to the red planet that bears Mars's name, or hear the echoes of ancient battles in our histories, that these deities were more than gods of war. They were the guardians of civilization itself, teaching us that true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to know when to sheathe the sword and tend the fields of peace. Tyr, the one-handed god of war, whose legacy challenges everything we thought we knew about divine warriors. Picture, if you will, a battlefield where the clash of steel falls silent, and instead of raising his sword, a god extends his hand in peace. How could the god of war be remembered not for conquest, but for keeping his word? This paradox lies at the heart of Tyr's story. A deity whose greatest victory came not from what he won, but from what he willingly lost. Before Thor wielded Mjolnir, before Odin sacrificed his eye for wisdom, there was Tyr, the original sky father of the Germanic peoples, whose name itself became synonymous with glory and honor. In the earliest Norse texts, he was known as Tiwaz, a name that echoes in our own modern Tuesday, forever marking his influence on our understanding of time itself. Tyr's origins remain shrouded in mystery, adding to his enigmatic nature. Some ancient sources name him as Odin's son, while others suggest he descended from giants, those primordial beings who preceded even the Aesir gods. This uncertainty speaks to his antiquity. Tyr was already ancient when the first Skalds began, recording the tales we know today. Archaeological evidence reveals his worship stretched across Germanic territories long before Viking Age sagas were penned. Stone carvings and bracteates, medallions worn by Germanic peoples, show a one-handed figure dating back to the migration period, suggesting Tyr's legend was already well established by the 5th century CE. His symbol, the spear of law and justice, appeared in ceremonial gatherings where tribes would settle disputes not through bloodshed, but through careful negotiation and binding oaths. But what truly set Tyr apart was not his martial prowess, though it was legendary. Instead, it was his unwavering commitment to justice and order. In a world where might often made right, Tyr stood as a testament to a different kind of strength, the power of law, honor, and sacrifice for the greater good. Unlike his fellow deities, Tyr's halls were not filled with trophies of war or spoils of battle. Instead, they housed the scales of justice and the codes of law that would become the foundation of Germanic legal systems. He was the upholder of Thing, the Germanic assembly where disputes were settled and laws were made. In these gatherings, his presence was invoked not to bless weapons, but to ensure fair judgment and binding contracts. While other war gods across mythologies were often depicted as bloodthirsty or cruel, Tyr represented the civilized face of conflict. He was the patron of justice in combat, the enforcer of rules even in warfare, and the protector of things sacred to society's function. Of all the tales that echo through the halls of Norse mythology, none captures Tyr's essence more powerfully than the binding of Fenrir. This story, far from a simple tale of good versus evil, reveals the complex nature of sacrifice and honor that defined Tyr's character. Fenrir, the monstrous wolf born of Loki's bloodline, grew at an alarming rate in Asgard. Each day, his size and strength doubled until even the gods themselves began to fear what he might become. The Norns, those weavers of fate, had foretold that Fenrir would play a crucial role in Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods. Yet, bound by their own laws of hospitality, the gods could not simply slay him. 3 times they attempted to bind the great wolf. First with lading, a chain of incredible strength, then with dromi, a fetter twice as strong. Each time Fenrir broke free with ease, treating these attempts as mere games. But the third binding would be different. The gods commissioned the dwarves to forge Gleipnir, a ribbon made from impossible things. The sound of a cat's footfall, the beard of a woman, the roots of a mountain, the sinews of a bear, the breath of a fish, and the spittle of a bird. But Fenrir, grown wise to the gods' attempts, refused to be bound unless one of them would place their hand in his mouth as a pledge of good faith. It was here, in this moment of crisis, that Tyr's true nature shone brightest. While other gods stepped back, Tyr stepped forward. "I will do it," he said, knowing full well what this meant. This wasn't just bravery. It was a profound understanding of the price of peace and order. As Gleipnir was wound around Fenrir's massive form, Tyr's right hand remained in the wolf's jaws. When Fenrir realized he had been truly bound, he did what everyone knew he would. He bit down, severing Tyr's hand at the wrist. But not a sound escaped Tyr's lips. No cry of pain, no curse of vengeance. For in that moment of supreme sacrifice, he demonstrated what true courage means, not fearlessness in the face of danger, but willingness to pay the ultimate price for what is right. This act transformed Tyr from merely a god of war to something far more profound. His missing hand became a symbol of the price of peace, a reminder that sometimes the greatest victories require the greatest sacrifices. In the Norse world, where personal honor and keeping one's word were paramount, Tyr's sacrifice served as the ultimate example of these virtues. But the loss of his hand didn't diminish Tyr's power, it enhanced it. In Norse culture, wounds endured for noble causes were seen as marks of honor, not weakness. His missing hand became a testament to his wisdom, showing that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the willingness to sacrifice for the greater good. In ancient Norse society, people would place their hand upon a sword or ring while making solemn vows, a practice that became known as giving one's hand, a direct reference to Tyr's sacrifice. His name was invoked not just in matters of war, but in councils, treaties, and anywhere truth and justice needed to prevail. Unlike other gods who often embodied stark opposites, chaos versus order, good versus Evil, Tyr represented the delicate balance between necessary forces. He understood that war, while sometimes inevitable, should serve justice rather than glory. In the great halls of Asgard, Tyr often served as the voice of reason among his fellow gods. When Thor would reach for Mjolnir to solve a dispute, it was often Tyr who suggested diplomatic alternatives. When Odin's schemes threatened to upset the delicate balance between realms, Tyr's counsel helped maintain peace. His wisdom wasn't just about knowing when to fight, it was about knowing when not to. Archaeological evidence suggests that Tyr's followers were not just warriors, but often law speakers and judges. Make no mistake, Tyr was no stranger to combat. His approach to warfare, however, was revolutionary for its time. In an age where berserker fury was celebrated, Tyr taught a different kind of combat philosophy. His followers learned that true victory comes not from unbridled aggression, but from disciplined action guided by principle. In the training grounds of Norse warriors, Tyr's teachings emphasized three core principles. First, fight only for just causes. Second, honor your word, even to your enemies. Third, understand that every conflict carries a price. Be prepared to pay it. These weren't just abstract concepts. They were practical guidelines that shaped how Norse warriors conducted themselves in battle and in peace. The code of honor associated with Tyr's teachings influenced military conduct across the Germanic world, laying groundwork for later concepts of chivalry and just war. In the prophecies of Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, Tyr's fate is both tragic and triumphant. It is foretold that he will face Garm, the monstrous hound that guards Helheim's gates. In their final battle, both Tyr and Garm will fall, each slaying the other. But the scales of justice, though now associated with the Roman goddess Justitia, carry the same weight of impartial judgment that Tyr embodied. Even the practice of raising one's right hand to swear an oath in court harkens back to the god who sacrificed. A saying attributed to Tyr in ancient texts captures this philosophy. The hand of justice may be heavy, but it must never be hidden. This speaks to the transparency and accountability he demanded, both from himself and from those who sought to lead others. As the ancient Norse saying goes, though Tyr lost his hand, he never lost his honor. For in the scales of the gods, one moment of true courage outweighs a lifetime of might. Odin, god of war, death, and knowledge. Through the mists of time, the Norse people spoke of him in many tongues, Woden to some, Woden to others, but always with reverence, always with a mix of fear and awe. For in Odin, they saw the perfect union of seemingly contradictory forces, a warrior king who sought the power of poetry, a battle god who prized wisdom above all else, and a divine ruler who would walk among mortals disguised as a wanderer. Born to Bor and the giantess Bestla, Odin emerged not as the supreme deity he would become, but as one of three brothers, Vili and Ve, at his side. Together, they would reshape the world from chaos into order. From the body of the primordial giant Ymir, they crafted the 9 worlds of Norse cosmology. Unlike the gods of other pantheons who ruled from golden thrones distant and unchanging, Odin was ever restless, ever seeking. He understood a profound truth. Power without wisdom is as dangerous as a sword in a fool's hands. Perhaps no tale better illustrates Odin's unquenchable thirst for knowledge than his sacrifice at the well of Mimir. Deep beneath the roots of Yggdrasil, the world tree, lay this well of wisdom, guarded by the severed head of the wise being Mimir. To drink from its waters required a sacrifice, not gold, not prayers, but something far more precious. Without hesitation, Odin plucked out his own eye and cast it into the dark waters. "I see far," he would later say. "I see deep. I see the 9 worlds and all that dwells within them." His remaining eye gleamed with the knowledge gained, but the empty socket served as an eternal reminder that wisdom often comes at a terrible price. But even this was not enough. Odin's next ordeal would shake the very foundations of Yggdrasil itself. For 9 days and 9 nights, he hung himself from the world tree, wounded by his own spear, Gungnir. Neither food nor drink passed his lips, as he dangled between life and death, between the worlds of gods and mortals. Through this ordeal, he discovered the secrets of the runes, the ancient symbols of power that would become one of his greatest gifts to humanity. On the battlefield, Odin was no mere spectator. His hall, Valhalla, became the ultimate reward for warriors who died with valor. The Valkyries, his choosers of the slain, rode through storm-racked skies on phantom horses, selecting the worthy dead to join his eternal army. These Einherjar would feast in Valhalla's golden halls, drinking mead and training for Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods. Yet Odin's connection to war went deeper than merely collecting fallen heroes. He was the master of battle frenzy, the force behind the legendary berserkers. These warriors would enter a trance-like state, fighting with supernatural strength and feeling neither fear nor pain. Some said they took on the aspects of wolves and bears, becoming more beast than man. This was Odin's gift, or perhaps his curse. His ravens, Hugin and Munin, thought and memory, flew across the 9 worlds each day, bringing him news of all that transpired. His 8-legged horse, Sleipnir, could gallop across land, sea and air, even carrying him to the realm of the dead, with his spear Gungnir, which never missed its mark, and his ring Draupnir, which multiplied itself every 9th night. Odin possessed tools of both war and wealth. Yet for all his power, Odin was not a god of honor as we might understand it. He was cunning, manipulative, and often broke his own oaths if it served a greater purpose. He would appear to mortals in disguise, as an old wanderer in a broad-brimmed hat, testing their hospitality and wisdom. Those who showed kindness to this mysterious stranger might be rewarded, while those who turned him away often met with misfortune. One of his most famous deceptions involved the building of Asgard's walls. When a giant offered to build an impenetrable fortress around the god's realm in exchange for the sun, moon, and the goddess Freya, Odin and the other gods agreed, believing the task impossible within the specified time frame. But when the giant and his magical horse nearly completed the work, Odin orchestrated a scheme involving Loki that prevented the giant from finishing, though it meant breaking their sworn oath. Perhaps the greatest tragedy of Odin's tale lies in his knowledge of Ragnarok, the prophesied doom of the gods. Through wisdom gained at terrible cost, he knew that he would fall in battle against the great wolf Fenrir. Yet instead of accepting this fate, he spent centuries preparing, gathering warriors, seeking knowledge, and weaving complex plans within. Plans. He knew that his son Thor would fall to the world serpent, that the sun would be swallowed by Skoll, that fire and ice would consume the 9 worlds. Still, he prepared, he planned, he gathered strength. For while Ragnarok meant the death of the old gods, it also promised rebirth, a new world rising from the ashes of the old. Odin's influence extends far beyond the realm of myth. His name echoes in our modern week, Wednesday or Woden's Day. As we look back across the centuries at this figure who looms so large in Northern European mythology, we might ask ourselves, what wisdom would we sacrifice an eye to gain? What truths would we hang 9 days upon the world tree to learn? For in Odin's eternal quest for knowledge, we see reflected our own unquenchable human desire to understand the mysteries that surround us. As the ancient Norse saying goes, the wise man knows he knows little. Perhaps this, above all, was Odin's greatest wisdom, that even a god must remain forever a seeker, forever a learner, forever a wanderer on the roads of knowledge. Kartikeya, or Skanda, god of war and victory. Thus was born Kartikeya, not as one, but as 6 perfect infants who merged into a singular divine being with 6 faces, 12 arms, and unmatched martial prowess. Each face represented a different aspect of his divine nature: courage, leadership, protection, wisdom, justice, and divine love. Kartikeya's powers transcend ordinary divine abilities. His vehicle, the majestic peacock Paravani, represents his ability to gracefully transform ego and pride into spiritual wisdom. The peacock, known to eat snakes, symbolizes triumph over dangerous impulses and mastery over inner enemies. His primary weapon, the Vel spear, was crafted from Parvati's own divine essence. This celestial weapon embodies discrimination and spiritual wisdom, cutting through the darkness of ignorance. When wielded by Kartikeya, it never misses its mark and always returns to his hand, much like truth inevitably prevails. But perhaps his most remarkable power lies in his role as a teacher. Known as Skanda Guru, he once instructed even his father, Shiva, in the meaning of Om, the primordial sound. This episode reveals his mastery over spiritual wisdom, despite his fierce warrior aspect. The defining moment in Kartikeya's story came with the battle against Tarakasura. For 6 days, the cosmic warfare raged across the heavens. Mountains crumbled, oceans churned, and the very fabric of reality trembled as god and demon clashed in epic combat. On the 6th day, Kartikeya revealed his true form, 6-faced, 12-armed, radiating the combined power of Shiva and Shakti. With a single thrust of his Vel spear, he pierced Tarakasura's chest, fulfilling the prophecy and restoring Dharma to the 3 worlds. Ancient Tamil literature speaks of him as both a warrior god and a lover of peace, showing that true strength encompasses both protection and compassion. Durga, goddess of war and protection. In the depths of celestial darkness, when demons threatened to tear apart the fabric of existence, the gods combined their divine energies into a brilliant flash of light. From this cosmic convergence emerged a being of unparalleled power, a warrior goddess with 10 arms, riding a fierce lion, her eyes blazing with divine purpose. This is the story of Durga, the invincible protector, whose very name means the inaccessible one. But what creates a force so powerful that even the gods themselves bow in reverence? What forges a defender so fierce that demons tremble at the mere whisper of her name? In the vast tapestry of Hindu mythology, few deities command the unique position that Durga holds. She represents the perfect balance of creation and destruction, of nurturing protection and fierce warfare. Known by many names, Amba, Chandika, Gauri, each aspect reveals a different facet of her divine personality, like light reflecting off a perfectly cut diamond. The creation of Durga marks one of the most dramatic moments in Hindu mythology. When the buffalo demon Mahishasura received a boon of invincibility against male opponents, he unleashed a reign of terror across the 3 worlds. The gods, defeated and desperate, gathered in council. Their combined frustration, anger, and divine energy manifested as brilliant lights emanating from their bodies. These lights merged to form Durga, a goddess more powerful than any single deity. Durga's very form embodies divine perfection. Her 10 arms stretch outward, each wielding a weapon gifted by the gods: Shiva's trident, Vishnu's discus, Vayu's bow, Agni's spear, and more. Her mount, the magnificent lion, represents raw power, harnessed by divine will. Her 3rd eye, centered on her forehead, sees past, present, and future. Her 4 children, Kartikeya, Ganesha, Lakshmi, and Saraswati, represent the perfect balance of power, wisdom, wealth, and knowledge. But it is not just her physical form that commands attention. Durga's powers transcend ordinary divine abilities. She can multiply herself at will, creating fierce aspects like Kali when situations demand extreme measures. Her mere presence can calm storms or incite them. She exists beyond time, yet steps into time when cosmic balance demands it. Perhaps no story better illustrates Durga's might than her battle with Mahishasura. For 9 days and nights, the universe watched as goddess and demon engaged in combat that shook the cosmos. Mahishasura shifted forms, from buffalo to lion to man, using every trick in his arsenal. But Durga matched him blow for blow. Her strategies, as brilliant as her weapons, were deadly. On the 10th day, when Mahishasura assumed his buffalo form once more, Durga's opportunity arrived. With her trident, she pierced his side. As he emerged, in his true form from the buffalo's neck, she thrust her spear through his chest. With 1 foot on her lion and the other on the buffalo, Durga's victory stance became an iconic symbol of good triumphing over evil. But Mahishasura was not her only legendary battle. When the demons, Shumba and Nishumba, terrorized the 3 worlds, Durga's battle strategy revealed her tactical brilliance. From her brow emerged Kali, and from her body emerged the Matrikas, warrior goddesses who would help turn the tide of battle. This story showcases not just Durga's raw power, but her ability to delegate and strategize. In another fascinating tale, Durga appeared as Shakambhari during a terrible 100-year drought. For 9 days, she nourished the world with vegetables and herbs that grew from her own body, showcasing her role not just as a destroyer of evil, but as a preserver of life. This dual nature, fierce protector and nurturing mother, makes her unique among deities. The worship of Durga extends far beyond mythological tales. Her influence has shaped Indian culture, art, and society for millennia. During the annual Durga Puja festival, millions of devotees celebrate her victory over Mahishasura, seeing in it a metaphor for their own battles against inner and outer demons. The festival serves as a reminder that strength can be gentle, and gentleness can be strong. In Bengal, Durga is seen as a daughter returning home, transforming a religious festival into a celebration of familial bonds. In Gujarat, her 9 forms are celebrated during Navratri, with 9 nights of dance celebrating feminine energy. Warriors throughout history, from ancient kings to freedom fighters, have invoked her name before battle. Durga's worship has evolved with time while maintaining its core essence. In the modern world, she represents women's empowerment, serving as an icon of feminine strength that doesn't conform to patriarchal expectations. Business leaders invoke her for protection and success. Environmentalists see in her a symbol of nature's power and the need to respect it. Her symbolism remains deeply relevant. The lion representing power under perfect control, her multiple arms showing the ability to multitask and handle different challenges simultaneously, her weapons symbolizing the tools we must use to fight life's battles: wisdom, courage, peace, and power. As we face our own modern demons, environmental destruction, social inequality, personal struggles, Durga's example becomes ever more relevant. She teaches us that true strength lies not in the weapons we wield, but in the wisdom with which we wield them. The ancient Sanskrit texts speak of Durga as Sarva Mangala Mangalye, the auspicious one who brings all that is auspicious. In our turbulent times, her message resonates across centuries, that protection comes to those who stand against adharma, unrighteousness, that power must serve purpose, and that the divine feminine is as much a force of creation as it is of necessary destruction. As the ancient Sanskrit prayer goes, Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu, Shakti Rupena Samstita, to that goddess who dwells in all beings in the form of power, we bow to her, we bow to her, we bow to her. Morrigan, goddess of war, fate and death, in the mist-shrouded hills of ancient Ireland, where battle cries echo through time and ravens circle overhead, there dwells a presence both feared and revered. She appears as a young maiden, a fierce warrior and a withered crone, 3 faces of the same dark divinity. She is the Morrigan, the phantom queen of war, fate and death, whose shadow looms over every battlefield and whose whispers guide the threads of destiny. Choose wisely, mortal, for I am the crow that watches, the sword that falls, and the fate that binds. Unlike the straightforward war deities of other pantheons, she embodied the multifaceted nature of conflict itself, the strategy before battle, the frenzy of combat, and the aftermath of war's devastation. The Morrigan appears in 3 primary aspects, each representing different facets of her divine power. As Barb, she is the harbinger of war, taking the form of a hooded crow crying out warnings of impending bloodshed. As Macha, she embodies sovereignty and territory, blessing or cursing the land itself. And as Nemain, she brings chaos to battle, driving warriors to madness with her supernatural screams. Together, these aspects form the triple goddess known as the Morrigan, whose power extends beyond mere combat into the very fabric of fate itself. Nuada, god of war and leadership. In the mist-shrouded valleys of ancient Ireland, where warriors' songs still echo through time, there stands a figure of legendary prowess. A king who sacrificed his crown for honor, only to rise again through silver and steel. This is the tale of Nuada Ergetlam, the first king of the Tuatha De Danann, whose name became synonymous with divine leadership and martial excellence. But before he was known as the Silver-Handed, before he led his people to the shores of Ireland, he was simply Nuada, a prince destined to forge his legacy in the fires of adversity. What makes a true leader? Is it the hand that wields the sword, or the wisdom that knows when to sheathe it? In Nuada's tale, we find these questions answered in ways that still resonate through the centuries. The story begins in the Northern Isles, in 4 mysterious cities where the Tuatha De Danann, the people of the goddess Danu, honed their magical arts and warrior skills. Among them, Nuada distinguished himself not just through his martial prowess, but through his ability to unite and inspire. The ancient texts speak of him as Nuada Necht, the White and Pure One, a name that reflected both his physical appearance and his steadfast character. In these cities, Phalius, Gorius, Murius, and Phineus, the Tuatha De Danann learned the deepest secrets of druidic wisdom. Each city bestowed upon them a magical treasure, but it was in Phineus that Nuada received his greatest gift, the Sword of Light, or Claim Solais. This legendary blade, it was said, could cut through any shield or wall, and once drawn, it ensured victory for its wielder. When the time came for the Tuatha De Danann to claim their destined home in Ireland, it was Nuada who led them across the seas. The chronicles tell us they arrived in ships of mist, burning them upon reaching shore, so there could be no retreat. This was Nuada's first great test of leadership, commanding his people to commit fully to their new destiny. But Ireland was not uninhabited. The Fir Bolg, who ruled the land, refused to yield half the island as requested. What followed was the first battle of Mag Tuiriad, a conflict that would forever change Nuada's fate. The battle raged for 4 days, with Nuada leading from the front, his sword of light blazing through the ranks of enemies. Yet victory came at a terrible price. In single combat with Sreng, the champion of the Fir Bolg, Nuada lost his right arm. Though the Tuatha De Danann won the day, their king was now blemished. Ancient Irish law decreed that no king could rule with a physical imperfection, and thus Nuada, despite his victory, was forced to abdicate his throne. Here we witness perhaps the most defining period of Nuada's story, 7 years of exile. While Bress, his replacement, proved to be a tyrant who nearly destroyed everything the Tuatha De Danann had built. During this time, Nuada did not fade into obscurity. Instead, he worked with Dian Cecht, the god of healing, and his son Miach to forge a new destiny. Dian Cecht crafted for Nuada an arm of silver, so perfectly articulated it could move like flesh. But it was Miach who performed an even greater, a miracle, using his powers to cause flesh and sinew to grow over the silver, creating a fully functional arm. This transformation earned Nuada his famous epithet, Getlam, of the Silver Hand. The Silver Hand became more than just a replacement limb. It became a symbol of resurrection and adaptation, of turning weakness into strength. When Bress's tyranny became unbearable, the people turned back to Nuada, now restored and arguably more powerful than before. The Silver Hand represents not just recovery, but evolution, becoming something new and perhaps greater than before. Montu, god of war and the sun in. The scorching heat of ancient Egypt's battlefields, where bronze clashed against bronze and the very air trembled with the fury of combat, one divine presence towered above all others, his falcon head pierced the clouds, his war cry echoing across the endless dunes like thunder. This was Montu, the forgotten god of war, who preceded even the mighty Horus, a deity so powerful that pharaohs themselves claimed his essence flowed through their veins during battle. But who was this magnificent being that merged the searing intensity of the sun with the calculated precision of warfare? Why did the ancient Egyptians look to the skies and see in this falcon-headed deity the perfect embodiment of martial prowess? Today, we delve into the burning sands of time to uncover the legacy of one of Egypt's most formidable gods. Long before the rise of Egypt's new kingdom, before Amun-Ra claimed supremacy over the pantheon, Montu reigned supreme in the ancient city of Hermonthis, known to the Egyptians as Unu Montu. Born in the crucible of Upper Egypt's warrior culture, Montu emerged not merely as a god of brutal force, but as a divine strategist who understood that victory required both strength and wisdom. His earliest worshippers saw him as a manifestation, of the sun's destructive power, the scorching heat that could wither armies and turn battlefields into furnaces. This solar aspect wasn't merely symbolic. It represented the divine order's triumph over chaos, the eternal struggle between light and darkness that played out both in the heavens and on Egypt's battlegrounds. The ancient texts speak of his appearance with reverential awe, a mighty figure with the head of a falcon, crowned with the solar disk and twin plumes that reached toward the heavens. In his hands, he wielded the curved khopesh sword, a weapon that became synonymous with Egyptian military might. But perhaps most telling was the bull that accompanied him, the creature that would later earn him the epithet Montu-Ra, Bull of Thebes. Montu's powers transcended the conventional boundaries between war deity and solar god. Like the sun itself, his presence could either nurture or destroy. In battle, he bestowed upon Egypt's armies what the texts call the strength of 1,000 men, a divine fury that transformed ordinary soldiers into unstoppable forces. But it was his role as a divine warrior that truly set him apart. Unlike other war gods who reveled in chaos, Montu represented controlled power, the discipline of a trained warrior combined with the precision of a solar ray. His sacred weapons included not just the khopesh, but also spears and bows, each representing different aspects of military strategy. The bull, his sacred animal, embodied his fierce nature. Known as Buchis, this living manifestation was kept in temples dedicated to Montu, its white body and black face believed to represent the perfect union of solar and martial powers. The priests claimed these sacred bulls could predict victory or defeat by their movements, making them crucial elements in military planning. Among the most compelling tales of Montu's power comes from the reign of Thutmose III, often called Egypt's Napoleon. During the Battle of Megiddo, ancient texts describe how the pharaoh became like Montu in his hour of triumph. Witnesses spoke of seeing the god's falcon shadow cast over the battlefield, its wings spreading to protect the Egyptian army, while its talons struck fear into enemy hearts. But perhaps the most fascinating legend speaks of the Day of Four Montus. According to hieroglyphic records found in the Temple of Karnak, there came a time when the god split himself into 4 aspects, each taking up position at a cardinal point around Thebes. This divine quartet created an impenetrable barrier of celestial protection, making the city virtually unconquerable. Some scholars believe this myth inspired the later practice of building 4 major temples to Montu around Thebes, each serving as a symbolic fortress guarding the sacred capital. Another remarkable tale tells of Montu's role in the foreign wars. Of Rameses II, before the famous Battle of Kadesh, it's said that Rameses prayed to Montu for guidance. That night, the god appeared in his dreams, teaching him complex battle formations that would later help turn near defeat into victory. This story highlights Montu's aspect not just as a god of brute force, but as a master tactician. Montu's influence extended far beyond the battlefield. His temples became centers of military training, where soldiers learned both physical combat and strategic thinking. The priests of Montu developed complex systems of martial arts, some of which may have influenced fighting styles that spread throughout the ancient world. His legacy teaches us that even in warfare, the ancients sought divine guidance, not just for victory, but for wisdom in wielding power responsibly. In every archaeological discovery, in every translated text, we uncover more layers of this fascinating deity who taught that warfare, like the sun's journey across the sky, should serve a higher purpose in maintaining cosmic order and justice. As Montu rises in glory, so too does truth rise from darkness. For in his light, we see not just the path to victory, but the way to wisdom. This is Sekhmet, the powerful one, the mistress of dread, and the lady of life. The ancient Egyptians knew well to both fear and revere her, for Sekhmet embodied the duality of existence itself, destruction and protection, plague and cure, war and peace. Her very name means the powerful one, and among all the deities of ancient Egypt, few commanded such profound respect and careful veneration. One of the most dramatic tales of Sekhmet's power unfolds in the story known as the destruction of mankind. When Ra discovered humanity's rebellion against his rule, he unleashed Sekhmet upon the world. She took to her task with frightening enthusiasm, tearing through humanity with the ferocity of a lion and the precision of a skilled warrior. The blood of men flooded the fields, and she waded through it with terrible joy, drinking it like wine. But as the slaughter continued, Ra began to fear that Sekhmet would not stop until she had eliminated all of humanity. Her bloodlust had grown, beyond even his control. To save mankind, Ra devised a clever plan. He ordered his priests to brew vast quantities of beer, which they dyed red with pomegranate juice and ochre, making it appear as blood. They flooded the fields with this mixture, and when Sekhmet came to continue her rampage, she found what she thought was a lake of blood. The goddess drank deeply of the beer, becoming more intoxicated with each gulp. As the alcohol took effect, her rage began to subside. The fearsome warrior transformed into Hathor, the gentle goddess of love and beauty. Humanity was saved, but the legend served as a permanent reminder of Sekhmet's tremendous power and the delicate balance between her destructive and protective natures. This duality defined Sekhmet's role in Egyptian mythology. While she was feared as a goddess of war and destruction, she was equally revered as a powerful healer. Her priests became renowned physicians, known as the servants of Sekhmet. They understood that the same force that could bring plague could also cure it, that the goddess who could burn with fever could also cool with healing touch. In Egyptian medicine, Sekhmet's healing powers were invoked through intricate rituals and carefully prepared remedies. Her temples became centers of medical knowledge, where priests studied the art of healing through both practical medicine and magical incantations. They believed that Sekhmet's breath could either bring the hot winds that carried disease or the cooling breeze that brought relief to the sick. The goddess was particularly associated with women's health and was often called upon during childbirth. Despite her fearsome reputation, Egyptian women would pray to Sekhmet for protection during pregnancy and delivery, believing that her strength could be channeled to protect both mother and child. Each year, the ancient Egyptians held elaborate festivals to honor Sekhmet and maintain cosmic balance. During the month of Epiphi, when the summer heat was at its most intense, priests would perform daily rituals to pacify the goddess. They would present her with offerings of wine, beer, and cool water, symbolically cooling her fiery nature and ensuring her benevolence toward humanity. Statues of Sekhmet were erected throughout Egypt, many carved from black granite or basalt. The most remarkable collection was commissioned by Amenhotep III, who ordered the creation of 365 seated and 365 standing statues of the goddess, one for each day of the year. This unprecedented tribute speaks to the profound respect and fear she commanded, even among the most powerful pharaohs. Beyond her roles as warrior and healer, Sekhmet served as a protector of Ma'at, the fundamental order of the universe. She defended the pharaoh in battle, accompanied him in ritual ceremonies, and ensured the continuation of divine order on earth. Her fearsome aspect served a crucial purpose: to ward off chaos and maintain the delicate balance between order and disorder. The ancient Egyptians saw in Sekhmet a reflection of nature's own duality, the scorching sun that could both nurture crops and burn them to ash, the Nile that could both fertilize and flood, the desert that could both protect and destroy. She embodied the understanding that great power carries both the capacity for destruction and the responsibility for protection. An ancient Egyptian proverb tells us, "The lioness may lie in the sun, but her claws remain sharp." Like Sekhmet herself, we must remain vigilant in maintaining the balance between our strength and our compassion, our power and our wisdom. Oh, Sekhmet, Mighty One, Lady of Life and Destruction, teaches us to heal with the same hands that protect us, to love with the same heart that rages, and to find the wisdom to know when to unleash our power and when to show mercy. Nergal, god of war and plague. In the scorched depths of the ancient Mesopotamian underworld, where shadows dance with death and pestilence reigns supreme, there dwells a deity whose very name once struck terror into the hearts of mortals. Nergal, god of war, plague, and sovereign of the dead. His story is not merely one of destruction, but a testament to the complex tapestry of power, passion, and transformation that defined the beliefs of humanity's earliest civilizations. The origins of Nergal stretch back to the very dawn of civilization, emerging from the sun-scorched cities of ancient Sumer. Initially worshipped as Meslamtir, he who comes forth from Meslam, Nergal began his divine journey as a god of the midday sun, that merciless force that both gives life and takes it away. But unlike his celestial counterpart Shamash, Nergal represented the sun's destructive power, the scorching heat that brings drought, death, and disease. Born to the great god Enlil and the goddess Ninlil, Nergal's divine lineage placed him among the most powerful deities of the Mesopotamian pantheon. His primary cult center was the ancient city of Kuthu, where the Temple of Emislam stood as a testament to his might. Here, priests would conduct elaborate rituals to appease his wrathful nature, hoping to ward off the plagues and conflicts that followed in his wake. But what made Nergal truly formidable was his mastery over both the physical and supernatural realms. In his hands, he wielded the divine weapons that made him the perfect embodiment of warfare. The mythical mace of 7 heads, each adorned with 50 deadly serpents and a sword that could cleave through the very fabric of reality. His crown, adorned with horns of divine power, marked him as one of the most feared gods in the entire pantheon. The Mesopotamian texts describe him in terrifying detail. His face blazes like the noonday sun. His roar splits mountains asunder, and in his wake march the 7 deadly demons of fever. Such was his power that even other gods trembled at the mention of his name. Yet, like many divine beings, Nergal's character would be forever changed by an encounter that would reshape the very structure of the ancient world. This brings us to perhaps the most famous tale associated with Nergal, his tumultuous relationship with Ereshkigal, the fearsome queen of the underworld. The story begins with a feast in the heavens where all the gods had gathered. Protocol demanded that when the gods feasted, a messenger would be sent to Ereshkigal, who could not leave her dark realm, to collect her portion. When Ereshkigal's messenger arrived at the celestial banquet, all the gods showed proper respect by standing, all except Nergal. This grave insult would set in motion a chain of events that would alter both deities' fates forever. Enraged, Ereshkigal demanded that Nergal be sent to the underworld to answer for his disrespect. What followed was a journey that would test even this mighty god of war. Armed with the counsel of Ea, the god of wisdom, Nergal descended into the underworld with 14 demons at his command. He was warned never to sit, never to eat, and never to drink while in Ereshkigal's realm. For 6 days, he stood guard at each of the 7 gates of the underworld, refusing all comfort and sustenance. But on the 7th day, something unexpected occurred. The fierce queen of the underworld, moved by Nergal's strength and determination, offered herself to him. In a twist that perfectly embodied the Mesopotamian understanding of the thin line between love and war, these 2 fearsome deities found themselves drawn to each other with an intensity that matched their terrible powers. Yet Nergal, perhaps fearing the permanence of the underworld's embrace, fled back to the celestial realm. Ereshkigal's response was swift and terrible. She sent her messenger to the highest god Anu with an ultimatum. Either return Nergal to her, or she would raise the dead to overwhelm the living, destroying the balance between the worlds. This second descent would prove permanent. Nergal returned to the underworld, this time not as a prisoner or penitent, but as a king. His union with Ereshkigal transformed him from a god of the scorching sun to the master of the great below, ruling alongside his queen over the realm of the dead. The significance of Nergal's evolution cannot be overstated. In him, we see the Mesopotamian understanding of how destruction and renewal, love and war, life and death are all interconnected. His journey from a solar deity to an underworld god reflects the ancient understanding that power can manifest in many forms, and that even the most fearsome forces can be transformed by love. but Nergal's influence extended far beyond myth and legend. In times of war, Mesopotamian kings would invoke his name, believing his fierce power would grant them victory on the battlefield. During plagues and epidemics, his priests would perform elaborate rituals to appease his wrath and protect their cities from disease. His symbol, the lion-headed staff, became a powerful talisman against evil and sickness. Archaeological evidence has revealed numerous prayers and incantations dedicated to Nergal, showing how deeply his worship was embedded in daily life. One particularly powerful prayer reads, "O mighty Nergal, whose wrath shapes the fate of nations, whose mercy grants life even in the shadow of death, hear the plea of your servant." As civilizations rose and fell, Nergal's influence spread beyond Mesopotamia. The Babylonians and Assyrians adopted him into their pantheons, and his characteristics can be seen reflected in later deities of war and death throughout the ancient Near East. Even as beliefs changed and new religions emerged, the archetypal power he represented, the intimate connection between destruction and renewal, continued to resonate through human consciousness. In the end, what makes Nergal's story so compelling is not just his terrible power or his dramatic transformation, but what he represents about the human understanding of life, death, and the forces that shape our world. In him, we see reflected our own complex relationship with power, our fear of death, and our hope that even in the darkest places, love can transform and redeem. As we close this chapter of ancient mythology, consider this. In a world that still grapples with war, disease, and the eternal cycle of life and death, perhaps Nergal's tale has something to teach us. As the ancient Mesopotamian proverb states, "Even the fiercest storm brings rain to the parched earth." For in the end, Nergal stands as a testament to the ancient wisdom that recognized how closely entwined are the forces of destruction and creation, war and peace, plague and healing. His story reminds us that even the most fearsome powers can be transformed by love, and that in the darkest depths one might find unexpected light. In the realm of shadow and flame, where terror and glory become the same, Nergal's crown burns eternal and bright, guardian of both death's darkness and life's light. Inanna Ishtar, goddess of war and love, in the shadows of forgotten temples where desert winds whisper ancient secrets, there dwells a goddess whose very name made kings tremble and lovers weep. She is Inanna to the Sumerians, Ishtar to the Akkadians, the divine paradox who wielded both the sword of war and the rose of passion. What force could unite such opposing powers? What deity dared to claim dominion over both battlefield and bedroom? Through the veil of 5,000 years, her story still burns bright in the clay tablets of Mesopotamia. Queen of heaven, mistress of earth, she was the morning and evening star, Venus herself blazing in the ancient sky. But unlike the demure love goddesses of other pantheons, Inanna was a force of nature who demanded nothing less than everything. Born from the union of the moon god Nanna and his consort Ningal, Inanna emerged in the cradle of civilization, ancient Sumer. Her main temple, the Iana, House of Heaven, rose like a mountain from the city of Uruk, its 7 levels reaching toward her celestial realm. But Inanna was not content with mere birthright. She was a goddess who seized power through cunning and determination. In one of the earliest tales, young Inanna visits Enki, god of wisdom, who holds the sacred Emi, the divine decrees that govern civilization. Finding him in his watery abode, she plies him with wine and sweet words until, in his drunken state, he gifts her over 100 divine powers. When he awakens and tries to reclaim them, it's too late. Inanna has already sailed away with civilization's blueprint, bringing arts, crafts, music, and lore to her beloved city of Uruk. What made Inanna unique among deities was her embrace of contradiction. In her temples, warriors laid down their bloodied swords alongside love poems. She was depicted both as a gentle maiden and a fierce, lion-headed goddess of battle. The sacred prostitutes who served in her temples were both revered and feared, wielding a power that blurred the lines between the sacred and profane. Her symbols tell this complex tale. the eight-pointed star of Venus, the lion that fought at her side, and the storehouse that represented abundance. She was draped in the me-lamb, a fearsome divine radiance that could strike terror or inspire love. Even her gender was fluid, as texts speak of her power to turn men into women and women into men. But it is in the tale of her descent to the underworld that we witness Inanna's greatest trial. Here is a goddess who would risk everything in her quest for ultimate power. The ancient tablet begins. From the great above, she opened her ear to the great below. Abandoning her temples and earthly powers, Inanna descends through 7 gates of the underworld. At each gate, she is stripped of her royal garments and divine insignia until she stands naked before her sister Ereshkigal, Queen of the Dead. It's a powerful metaphor for the stripping away of ego, of facing our darkest truths. In the underworld, Inanna is killed, her corpse hung on a hook like common meat. For 3 days and nights she hangs lifeless, while above, the earth grows barren. It takes the intervention of Enki's creatures, carrying the food and water of life, to resurrect her. But there's a price. No one leaves the underworld without providing a replacement. Inanna's choice falls upon her consort Dumuzid, who she finds seated on her throne, untroubled by her death. This tale of death and resurrection would echo through the centuries, influencing religious thought across the ancient world. As a goddess of love, Inanna's passion was as fierce as her war-making. The Epic of Gilgamesh tells how she proposed to the mighty king, offering him her body and kingdom. But Gilgamesh refuses, reciting a long list of her discarded lovers, each meeting a tragic end. Enraged, she unleashes the Bull of Heaven upon his city, showcasing how quickly her love could turn to devastating wrath. Yet her romance with Dumuzid shows her capacity for tender love. Their courtship is captured in some of humanity's oldest love poetry. My beloved delight of my eyes, meet me in the garden. My sweet delight of my eyes, meet me in the garden. In war, Inanna was unmatched. She rode into battle on her lion-drawn chariot, bringing storms of arrows and floods of blood. Kings sought her blessing before campaigns, and victory celebrations were held in her temples. The Mesopotamian ruler, Naram-Sin, depicted himself wearing her horned crown, claiming divine authority through her favor. An ancient hymn captures her warrior aspect. When I, the queen, storm against the land, when I, the goddess, thunder like Iskar, when I make lightning flash in the holy places, when I, Inanna, consume the land like fire, when I play the song of destruction, then like an alien city, like a city cursed with catastrophe, the land lies overwhelmed. Inanna, Ishtar's influence extended far beyond Mesopotamia. Her worship spread across the ancient Near East, where she was associated with the planet Venus and took on new names: Astarte to the Phoenicians, Aphrodite to the Greeks. Her descent to the underworld became a template for hero myths and religious mysteries. Even today, her legacy lives on. The eight-pointed star appears on countless flags and symbols. The very concept of a powerful female deity who commands both love and war challenged ancient patriarchal structures and continues to inspire modern discussions about gender and power. In the end, Inanna represents humanity's eternal struggle to reconcile opposing forces: love and war, creation and destruction, heaven and earth. As the ancient priests wrote, "Without you, no destiny is determined, no king is raised to the throne." Perhaps this is why her story endures. In a world still torn between love and war, Inanna reminds us that the greatest power lies not in choosing one over the other, but in embracing life's fundamental dualities. As an ancient Sumerian prayer declares, "In battle, terrible is her face. Her glance is fire, her radiance death." Remember her when you see the evening star blazing in the twilight sky. For 5,000 years, she has watched over our loves and our battles, this Queen of Heaven who dared to unite the irreconcilable and make it divine. Freya, goddess of war, death, and love. In the depths of the frozen north, where aurora lights dance across star-strewn skies, a golden necklace gleams in the darkness. Its wearer, a goddess whose tears turn to amber, whose chariot is pulled by giant cats, and whose very presence can ignite both passionate love and fierce warfare. This is Freyja, the most complex and powerful goddess in Norse mythology, mistress of cedar magic, collector of fallen warriors, and keeper of secrets that even Odin himself sought to learn. When the ancient skalds spoke of her, they painted a picture of contradictions, a warrior who wept, a death goddess who embodied life's greatest pleasures, a being of such beauty that even giants schemed to possess her. But to truly understand Freyja, we must journey back to the time when the worlds were young and the boundaries between gods and giants were first drawn in blood. Born to the sea, god Njörður in Vanaheim, Freyja emerged from the realm of the Vanir, gods of fertility, wisdom, and foresight. Unlike the warrior Aesir of Asgard, the Vanir understood the subtle powers that shaped the 9 worlds. Yet Freyja would bridge both divine families, becoming a key figure in the peace treaty that ended the devastating Aesir-Vanir war. When she arrived in Asgard as a hostage-turned-honored guest, Freyja brought with her the mysteries of cedar, a form of magic so powerful it could weave the threads of fate itself. This wasn't the battle magic of warrior gods. This was something older, deeper, and far more dangerous. Even Odin, the All-Father, became her student, though male practitioners of cedar were often scorned. Under her guidance, he learned to shift shapes, travel between worlds, and glimpse possible futures. But Freyja was far more than a teacher of ancient arts. In her great hall, Sessrumnir, located in her realm Folkvanger, she claimed first choice of the fallen warriors from every battlefield. While Odin's Valkyries carried half the slain to Valhalla, Freyja herself selected her share, building an army that would rival the All-Fathers when Ragnarok arrived. Yet, unlike Odin's harsh martial atmosphere, Freyja's hall rang with both battle songs and love poems, where warriors could explore both valor and tenderness. Perhaps her most famous possession was Brisingamen, the necklace that sparked one of Norse mythology's most compelling tales. The story goes that Freyja discovered 4 dwarven brothers crafting the most beautiful piece of jewelry ever created. Consumed by desire for it, she offered gold, silver, and precious gems. The dwarves, however, named a different price: 1 night with each of them. After 4 nights of what some called scandal and others called clever negotiation, Freyja emerged wearing the necklace that would become her most famous symbol. This tale reveals a goddess unbound by conventional morality, who understood that true power often lies in embracing both light and shadow. When Loki later stole Brisingamen, he discovered that taking Freyja's treasures carried devastating consequences. She pursued him relentlessly, her fury transforming the northern lights themselves into a blazing hunt across the heavens. But it was her role in the story of Baldur's death that showcased the depth of her influence. When Baldur, the most beloved of gods, was slain by Hörder's mistletoe arrow, it was Freyja who first demonstrated the power of tears. Her weeping for Baldur was so pure, so profound, that her tears turned to gold as they fell. This image of sorrow transformed into beauty became a central metaphor in Norse poetry, representing how even grief could birth something precious. Freyja's power over love was equally formidable. Riding in her chariot, pulled by 2 enormous cats, themselves symbols of independence and grace, she would traverse the 9 worlds, spreading desire and fertility in her wake. Yet this wasn't merely romantic love. It was the raw force of attraction that bound the cosmos together, the same energy that made seeds burst from the earth and stars dance in their celestial patterns. Her beauty was legendary, drawing the attention of giants who repeatedly tried to claim her as a bride. In one famous tale, the giant Thrymr stole Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, and demanded Freyja as payment for its return. The goddess's response was characteristic: not fear, not compliance, but such rage that the halls of Asgard shook and Brisingamen shattered. The gods found another solution, one involving Thor dressed as a bride, but the message was clear. Freyja belonged to no one but herself. This independence extended to her marriage. While she had a husband, Odr, possibly an aspect of Odin himself, he was frequently absent on long journeys. Rather than pine away, Freya would mount her boar Hildisvini and search the 9 worlds for him, weeping tears of red gold that would be found by lucky mortals. Some scholars suggest these wanderings were more than mere searching. They were quests for knowledge and power in their own right. In her aspect as a death goddess, Freya revealed yet another layer of complexity. Unlike the grim Hel who ruled the dishonorable dead, Freya offered a different kind of afterlife. In her hall, death was not an end, but a transformation. Warriors learned to be lovers. Lovers learned to be warriors. And all understood that the greatest battles often took place within one's own heart. Most intriguingly, Freya was keeper of the feather cloak, a magical garment that could transform its wearer into a falcon. This power of transformation was central to her nature. She understood that love, war, and death were all faces of the same force, the power to change, to become something new, to transcend one's current limitations. The subtle influence of Freya's worship can still be seen today. Friday, Freya's Day, bears her name, and cats, her sacred animals, retain their association with independence and mystery. More profoundly, her integration of seemingly opposing forces, love and war, life and death, passion and wisdom, offers a template for understanding the complexity of existence itself. Among her many names, Vanadis, goddess of the Vanir, Gefn, the giver, Mardol, the one who makes the sea swell. Perhaps the most telling is Horn, meaning the hidden one. For in all her stories, Freya reminds us that the most powerful forces in life often lie beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to embrace both the light and shadow of existence. As ancient skald Thorbjorn Horncloffi wrote, when she rides to battle, death-hungry ravens follow, yet when she weeps for lovers, golden tears mark her path. In her hall, both sword and kiss find their truest aim. In a world that often demands we choose between power and love, between wisdom and passion, Freya stands as a reminder that the richest life embraces all these aspects. She teaches us that true strength lies not in denying any part of ourselves, but in weaving all our seemingly contradictory aspects into a whole that is greater than the sum of its. Thor, god of war and thunder, in the vast cosmos of Norse mythology, where lightning splits the heavens and thunder shakes the 9 worlds, there exists a force so powerful that giants tremble at the mere whisper of his name. He is Thor, son of Odin, wielder of Mjolnir, protector of both gods and humans alike. Born to Odin, the Allfather, and Jörd, the personification of Earth herself, Thor emerged as the perfect bridge between the celestial and terrestrial realms. His birth was said to have been heralded by a storm that lasted 7 days and 7 nights, with lightning illuminating all 9 worlds of Yggdrasil. The giants, ever watchful of Asgard's affairs, felt a tremor of foreboding, for in Thor's first cry, they heard the promise of their future nemesis. Unlike his father's calculated wisdom or his brother Loki's silver-tongued cunning, Thor embodied raw power tempered with an unwavering sense of justice. As he grew, so did his reputation as Asgard's strongest defender, earning him the names Donar among the Germanic peoples and Thor in the Old Norse tongue. But what truly set Thor apart wasn't merely his divine parentage or his extraordinary strength. It was his possession of 3 legendary treasures that would become synonymous with his power. First came Mjolnir, the hammer that could level mountains, yet return to his hand like a faithful hound. Forged by the dwarf brothers Brokkr and Eitri in a contest of skill, Mjolnir was more than a weapon. It was an extension of Thor's very being, capable of channeling lightning and delivering judgment upon the wicked. His second treasure was Megging Jörd, the belt of strength, which doubled his already formidable power when worn. The third was Jarngreipr, iron gloves that allowed him to wield Mjolnir's full potential without being consumed by its raw energy. Together, these artifacts transformed Thor from a mighty god into an unstoppable force of nature. Unlike many of his fellow Aesir, Thor held a special place in his heart for Midgard and its human inhabitants. He saw in them a reflection of his own warrior spirit, their struggles against the harsh realities of existence, their determination to build and protect their homes, their courage in the face of overwhelming odds. This affinity made him Midgard's most dedicated protector, earning him worship not through fear, but through genuine admiration and gratitude. Perhaps no story better illustrates Thor's character than his journey to Utgarda Loki's fortress. Accompanied by Loki and 2 human servants, Thor faced a series of seemingly impossible challenges designed to humiliate him. He attempted to lift a cat that was actually the Midgard serpent in disguise, wrestled with an old woman who was secretly the personification of old age, and tried to empty a drinking horn connected to the ocean itself. Though he appeared to fail, each challenge, the truth revealed the extent of his power. He had lifted the serpent high enough to nearly break its grip on Midgard, fought against the one force no being could defeat, and drunk enough to lower the ocean's level. Even in apparent defeat, Thor demonstrated power that terrified his hosts once the illusions were lifted. Another testament to his might came during his fishing expedition with the giant Hymir. Using an ox head as bait, Thor hooked Jörmungandr, the world serpent, and nearly pulled the massive creature from the depths. This encounter would foreshadow their final meeting at Ragnarok, where prophecy declared they would slay each other in a battle that would shake the foundations of creation. Yet Thor's greatest story is one that has not yet come to pass. His role in Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods. Prophecy speaks of a final battle where Thor will face Jörmungandr one last time. In this apocalyptic confrontation, he will succeed in slaying the world serpent, but will fall to its venom after taking 9 steps backward. This foretold sacrifice exemplifies Thor's ultimate nature, a protector willing to give his life to defend the realms he loves. Thor's influence extended far beyond the religious sphere of the Norse people. His name echoes through the days of our week. Thursday, or Thor's Day, stands as a permanent reminder of his importance. The hammer symbol, Mjolnir, became a powerful icon of protection and strength, worn as amulets by Norse peoples, even as Christianity began to spread. Through Scandinavia, in the hearts of the Norse people, Thor represented the ideal warrior, strong yet honorable, powerful yet protective, fierce in battle yet generous in friendship. He was the god who walked among humans, shared their mead, and defended their homes. Unlike the distant, contemplative Odin or the manipulative Loki, Thor was straightforward, reliable, and present in the lives of his worshippers. Today, Thor's legacy lives on, transformed but undiminished. His stories continue to captivate audiences worldwide, adapted into various forms of media and art. Yet beneath the modern interpretations lies the same core truth that made him so beloved to the Norse people. The idea that great power comes with great responsibility, that strength finds its truest expression in the protection of others. As the ancient skalds would say, when thunder roars across summer skies, know that Thor still rides, ever vigilant, ever ready to defend those who cannot defend themselves. Remember these words from the poetic Edda. Thunder in the mountains, power in the storm, where Thor's hammer strikes, worlds are reborn. For in Thor, we see not just a god of thunder and lightning, but a mirror of humanity's noblest aspirations. The desire to stand against chaos, to protect the weak, and to face our destinies with unwavering courage, no matter the cost. Hachiman, god of war and archery, in the misty peaks of ancient Japan, where sacred arrows pierce the veil between heaven and earth, there dwells a deity whose very name once moved armies. Hachiman, the god of war and archery, whose 8 banners rippled across countless battlefields, guiding warriors through the chaos of combat. But who is this mysterious figure who transformed from a mortal emperor into one of Japan's most venerated kami? Some say he first appeared as 3 luminous doves, descending from the heavens to guide an empress in distress. Others whisper of a divine warrior who emerged from the sea, bearing the wisdom of 8 kingdoms. The story of Hachiman begins not in the celestial planes, but in the mortal realm, with Emperor Ojin, the 15th emperor of Japan. Born in the 3rd century, legends tell of how his mother, Empress Jingu, delayed his birth for 3 years while she led a military campaign against Korea. Even before drawing his first breath, Ojin's destiny was intertwined with warfare and leadership. During his reign, Ojin became renowned for his wisdom and martial prowess. He introduced new technologies and cultural practices from the Korean peninsula, forever changing the fabric of Japanese society. But it was after his death that something extraordinary occurred. The mortal emperor ascended to godhood, becoming the deity we know as Hachiman. The name Hachiman itself tells a story, Hachi meaning 8, and man meaning banners or perfection. Some scholars interpret this as representing the 8 directions of the cosmos, others as the 8 aspects of enlightenment. But all agree that the number 8 holds deep significance in Japanese spirituality, representing completeness and divine power. As Hachiman's worship spread across Japan, his identity evolved beyond that of a mere war deity. He became known as the guardian of culture, the patron of warriors, and the protector of the Japanese people. His symbols, the dove, the bow and arrow, and the 8 banners, began appearing in artwork and architecture throughout the land. The Minamoto clan, one of Japan's most powerful warrior families, claimed Hachiman as their ancestral god. They built countless shrines in his honor, with the great Tsurugaoka Hachiman-gu in Kamakura standing as perhaps the most magnificent. Even today, this shrine draws millions of visitors, its massive torii gates standing as testament to the enduring power of Hachiman's legacy. But what truly sets Hachiman apart is his unique position in the Japanese pantheon. Unlike many Shinto-kami, he embraced Buddhism when it arrived in Japan, earning the title Great Bodhisattva Hachiman. This spiritual flexibility made him a bridge between Japan's native Shinto faith and the imported Buddhist traditions, embodying the harmony between these two great spiritual paths. Among the most celebrated tales of Hachiman's power is the story of the great Buddha of Nara. When craftsmen struggled to cast the massive bronze statue, it was Hachiman who appeared in a dream to a priest, revealing the location of new copper deposits that would make the project possible. This story illustrates how Hachiman's influence extended beyond warfare into the realm of culture and artistry. Another legend tells of how Hachiman aided the famous warrior Minamoto no Yoshie in battle. As Yoshie pursued his enemies across a field, Hachiman sent a white dove to guide him through the fog. Following this divine messenger, Yoshie achieved a crucial victory that would shape the future of Japan. From that day forward, the dove became one of Hachiman's sacred symbols, representing not just martial prowess, but divine guidance in times of need. Perhaps most fascinating is the tale of Hachiman's role in defending Japan from the Mongol invasions. When Kublai Khan's mighty fleet threatened Japanese shores in the 13th century, it was said that Hachiman answered the prayers of the Japanese people by summoning the legendary kamikaze, the divine wind that scattered the invading fleet. This divine intervention earned him an even greater place in Japanese hearts as the protector of the nation itself. Hachiman's teachings went far beyond mere military strategy. He became associated with the virtuous warrior, one who fights not for personal glory, but for the protection of the weak and the preservation of peace. His doctrine emphasized the importance of righteousness in warfare, wisdom in leadership, and compassion in victory. In the martial arts dojos of medieval Japan, warriors would often begin their training with prayers to Hachiman, seeking not just skill with the bow and sword, but the wisdom to know when to use them. His shrines became centers of both military and spiritual training, where warriors learned that true strength lies not just in the arm that draws the bow, but in the heart that guides the arrow. Today, Hachiman's influence extends far beyond the battlefield. His shrines remain centers of community life, where people pray not just for victory in their endeavors, but for wisdom, protection, and guidance. Modern Japanese corporations often seek his blessing for success in business, seeing him as a symbol of strategic thinking and righteous leadership. In the world of traditional archery, or kyudo, Hachiman's spirit lives on. Practitioners approach the art not just as a sport, but as a spiritual discipline, seeking to unite body, mind, and spirit in perfect harmony, much as Hachiman united the military and spiritual aspects of Japanese culture. From mortal emperor to divine protector, from war deity to cultural guardian, Hachiman's journey reflects the evolving spirit of Japan itself. His story teaches us that true strength lies not in conquest but in protection, not in division, but in unity, not in rigid dogma, but in spiritual harmony. In the words of an old Japanese proverb, the bow of peace is drawn with the arrow of wisdom, and its target is the heart of truth. Perun, god of war, thunder and sky. High above the ancient Slavic lands, where storm clouds gather and lightning splits the sky, dwells a figure of immense power. Perun, the supreme deity of thunder, lightning, storms, rain, law, and war. In one hand he holds his mighty axe, in the other golden apples that hold the power of lightning itself. But how did this mighty god come to rule the heavens? And what tales do our ancestors whisper of his fierce battles? Picture, if you will, an oak tree reaching impossibly tall into the storm-dark sky, its branches spanning the heavens themselves. This is Perun's domain, where the mortal and divine realms meet in a clash of thunder and lightning. Every crack of thunder is his voice, every flash of lightning, his weapons striking true. In the cosmic order of Slavic mythology, Perun emerged as the ruler of the upper world, residing atop the world tree, a mighty oak that connected heaven, earth, and the underworld. Born into the pantheon of Slavic gods, he rose to prominence as the patron deity of the warrior class and protector of the natural order. Unlike the Greek Zeus or Norse Thor, to whom he is often compared, Perun's authority extended beyond the storms. He was the guardian of truth, contracts, and the cosmic law itself. The ancient Slavs depicted him as a mighty warrior with a copper beard, blazing with the fire of lightning. His eyes held the intensity of storm clouds, and his very presence could shake the earth. In his divine arsenal, he wielded not just the axe of thunder, but also a bow that shot arrows of lightning and a sword that could cleave mountains. Perun's powers manifested in multiple forms, each more awe-inspiring than the last. His primary weapon, the axe, was no ordinary tool of war. It was the axe of thunder, forged in the divine flames of creation itself. When thrown, it would return to his hand like a loyal hound to its master. The golden apples he carried were said to contain the very essence of lightning, and he would hurl them at evil spirits and those who broke sacred oaths. His sacred animal was the eagle, soaring high above the world, watching for any disruption of the cosmic order. The oak tree, with its deep roots and towering height, became his living temple. Our ancestors believed that when lightning struck an oak, that spot became hallowed ground, marked by Perun's divine touch. But perhaps the most dramatic tale of Perun's power unfolds in his eternal conflict with Veles, the god of the underworld. This wasn't merely a battle between good and evil. It was the cosmic dance that maintained the balance of existence itself. Each year, as winter approached, Veles would emerge from his underworld domain. Taking the form of a great serpent or dragon, he would steal the cattle of humanity, representing the clouds, and hide them in his realm, bringing drought and hardship to the world. Perun, as the protector of order, would engage in a mighty battle with Veles. Their clashes would shake the heavens. Every lightning bolt was Perun's weapon, striking at the serpent god, every rumble of thunder the echo of their combat. When Perun finally triumphed, the rains would return, bringing life back to the earth. Another fascinating tale speaks of how Perun established the world tree. In the time before time, when the cosmos was young, he planted an oak seed in the fertile soil of creation. As it grew, its roots reached deep into the underworld, its trunk became the realm of mortals, and its branches stretched into the heavens. At its very top, Perun built his golden palace, from where he could observe all three realms of existence. The tree became more than just his home. It was the axis around which the whole world turned. Each branch held different celestial bodies, and in its leaves dwelt the souls of the unborn. When lightning struck the tree, it wasn't an act of destruction but of divine communication, sending messages through all three realms of existence. Perun's influence extended far beyond mythology into the very fabric of Slavic society. Warriors would swear oaths by his name, placing their weapons beneath oak trees as offerings. Kings and princes would invoke his power to sanctify treaties. Breaking an oath sworn before Perun was to invite divine retribution in the form of his lightning. Even after the arrival of Christianity, Perun's influence persisted. Many Christian churches were built upon his sacred sites, and the prophet Elijah, who commanded thunder and rain, became associated with Perun's attributes. The oak tree remained sacred, and even today, phrases invoking thunder and lightning in Slavic languages carry echoes of this ancient god's power. In agriculture, farmers would watch for signs of his presence. The first spring thunder was celebrated as Perun's awakening from winter slumber, marking the beginning of the growing season. Rain following a thunderstorm was considered particularly beneficial, blessed by the god himself. As an ancient Slavic proverb states, when Perun's thunder roars, the earth remembers its promises. Guan Yu, god of war and loyalty. The clash of steel echoes through the mist-shrouded battlefield. A lone warrior stands resolute, his emerald dragon blade gleaming in the dawn light. His beard flows like silk in the wind, his face as red as the setting sun. This is no ordinary general. This is Guan Yu, the man who would become a god, whose very name would come to symbolize unwavering loyalty and martial prowess for over 2 millennia. In the turbulent years of China's later Han Dynasty, as empires crumbled and kingdoms rose from their ashes, one man's journey from humble butcher to divine warrior would forever alter the spiritual landscape of East Asia. But what transforms a mortal into a deity? What elevates a soldier to become the embodiment of loyalty itself? The story begins in Xi County, Hedong, where Guan Yu was born in 160 CE during the twilight years of the Han Dynasty. Like many great heroes, his early life was modest. He worked as a butcher, yet even then displayed an uncommon sense of justice and honor. Legend speaks of how he slew a local bully who had been terrorizing the marketplace, forcing him to flee his hometown and begin the journey that would lead him to greatness. But it was his fateful meeting with 2 other men that would change the course of history. In the year 184 CE, amid the chaos of the Yellow Turban Rebellion, Guan Yu encountered Liu Bei and Zhang Fei. Under a blossoming peach garden, these 3 warriors swore an oath that would become legendary. Though born on different days, they would die as brothers. This peach garden oath marked the beginning of a brotherhood that would inspire countless generations to come. Though we were born in different years, we shall die on the same day. May heaven and earth witness our hearts. Standing nearly 7 feet tall with a beard that flowed past his chest, Guan Yu cut an imposing figure on the battlefield. His weapon of choice was the green dragon crescent blade, a glaive weighing 82 Chinese pounds. But it wasn't just his physical presence that commanded respect. It was his unshakable moral code. Guan Yu's martial prowess became the stuff of legend. In the Battle of Fancheng, he fought through 5 passes and slew 6 generals, earning him the title, passing 5 passes and slaying 6 generals. His most famous deed came at the Battle of Huarong Trail, where he encountered Cao Cao, his sworn brother's greatest rival, in a vulnerable position. Despite Cao Cao being an enemy, Guan Yu remembered the kindness and respect Cao had once shown him. In a moment that would define his character, he allowed Cao Cao to pass unharmed, choosing honor over opportunity. This decision would later cost him dearly, but it cemented his reputation as a man of principle. Perhaps no story better illustrates Guan Yu's legendary loyalty than his time serving under Cao Cao. After becoming separated from his sworn brother Liu Bei, Guan Yu was forced to serve under Cao Cao. Though treated with exceptional honor, given gold, silk, and beautiful women, his heart remained with his oath brother. When he learned of Liu Bei's whereabouts, Guan Yu made the dangerous decision to leave Cao Cao's service. Before departing, he laid out all the gifts he had received and wrote a letter of farewell. Then, fighting through numerous obstacles and refusing generous offers from multiple warlords, he traveled over 1,000 miles to reunite with Liu Bei. This journey became known as Guan Yu's Long Journey, and it stands as a testament to his unwavering loyalty. Even as armies pursued him and temptations were laid before him, he never wavered from his path. In 219 CE, Guan Yu met his end at Fan Castle. Surrounded by enemies and betrayed by allies, he refused to surrender. Even as defeat loomed inevitable, he maintained his dignity and honor. Captured by Sun Quan's forces, he chose execution over betraying his principles. His final words, as recorded in historical texts, epitomize his character. "Take my head, but I die with honor intact." Death was not the end of Guan Yu's story. It was merely the beginning of his divine legend. As word of his loyalty and righteousness spread, people began to worship him as a god. Temples rose in his honor across China, and his influence spread to Korea, Japan, and Vietnam. Emperor Huizong of the Song dynasty officially canonized him as Magnificent Emperor Guan, god of war and loyalty, in 1119 CE. From the bustling streets of Hong Kong to the quiet shrines of rural China, his presence remains a constant reminder of the power of integrity and the importance of staying true to one's principles. From the unrelenting chaos of Aries to the disciplined honor of Guan Yu and the protective strength of Durga to the calculated wisdom of Athena, these war deities remind us that war is not just about conflict. It's about survival, strategy, and the ideals we hold dear. Each god and goddess reflects the values of their cultures and the roles war has played in shaping humanity. Which of these deities resonates most with you? Let us know, and stay tuned for more mythological deep dives.